On April 15, 2020, the Macdonald-Laurier Institute, in concert with our partner think tanks, the Henry Jackson Society and European Values, released an open letter to the people of China and their many friends at home and abroad. This letter, signed by over 100 experts, academics, and political leaders, discusses the COVID-19 crisis and how China's rule by fear endangers Chinese citizens and the world. Let me tell you what the letter said. It begins by stressing that the current global health crisis has been caused by the very regime so many Chinese citizens have been tolerating or supporting for decades. On the 2nd of April 2020, a group of 100 Chinese establishment scholars wrote their own open letter decrying, and I quote, the many critical voices politicizing the COVID-19 pandemic, close quote. They stated that, quote, at this stage of the pandemic, the exact source and origin of COVID-19 remains undetermined, but these questions are unimportant, and finger-pointing is demeaning and hurtful to everyone, end quote. That open letter exemplifies what the independent intellectual, Professor Zhou Jiang Run, has called the ridiculous red culture and the nauseating adulation that the system heaps on itself via shameless pro-party hacks who chirrup hosannas at every turn, end quote. Professor Zhu, now under house arrest, has called on his compatriots to stop their uncritical support for the Chinese Communist Party and instead to rage against this injustice. Let your lives burn with a flame of decency, he's written. Break through the stultifying darkness and welcome the dawn. While the exact source and spread of the virus may not yet be completely clear, the question of origin is highly important for the people of China and for all humankind. Only by understanding how this global disaster could emerge can we prevent it from happening again. The roots of the pandemic lie in a cover-up by the Chinese Communist Party authorities in the city of Wuhan in Hubei province. Under the influence of the Chinese Communist Party, the World Health Organization first downplayed the pandemic. Taiwanese health officials also allege that the World Health Organization ignored their alerts of human-to-human transmission in late December. Under pressure from the Chinese Communist Party, Democratic Taiwan, which has coped with the pandemic in exemplary fashion, is excluded from the WHO. We should never forget that this, China's Chernobyl moment, was a self-inflicted wound. The Chinese Communist Party silenced Chinese doctors who wanted to warn other health professionals during the early stages of the outbreak. Dr. Ai Fen can no longer appear in public after having participated in a domestic media interview. Her colleague, Dr. Li Wenliang, died while fighting the virus in Wuhan. On his deathbed, Dr. Li famously said that a healthy society shouldn't have only one voice. The Chinese entrepreneur, Ren Zhiqiang, wrote that, quote, without a media representing the interests of the people by publishing the actual facts, the people's lives are being ravaged by both the virus and the major illness of the system. He disappeared on March 12th. The courageous citizen journalists Chen Zhu-Shi, Fang Bin, and Li Zhehua, who tried to report freely about the situation in Wuhan, are now also missing. Mainland China's political malaise goes beyond the leadership failure of Xi Jinping. In a recent video message, a young student called Jiang Wenbin reflected on his evolution from an uncritical Chinese Communist Party supporter to a critical citizen with a conscience. He says, since I scaled the Great Firewall, I gradually came to the realization that the Chinese Communist Party has extended its dragon claws into every corner of the world. Jiang goes on to cite the regime's historical and modern atrocities, including the Great Leap Forward and its ensuing famine, the Cultural Revolution, the one-child policy, the Tiananmen Square massacre, as well as the persecution of the Falun Gong spiritual movement and the peoples of Tibet, Hong Kong, and Xinjiang. According to Jiang, everyone continues to turn a blind eye, singing the party's praises. I just can't bear it. Jiang disappeared shortly after recording his message. His friends fear he will face interrogation and torture by the secret police. The global COVID-19 pandemic forces us all to confront an inconvenient truth. By politicizing all aspects of life, including people's health, continued autocratic one-party rule in the People's Republic of China has endangered everyone in the world. Rather than trusting the Chinese Communist Party's intentions and accepting establishment academics' uncritical approval of the party state's policies, we should pay greater attention to the voices of what can be termed unofficial China. These independent-minded academics, doctors, entrepreneurs, citizen journalists, public interest lawyers, and young students no longer accept the Chinese Communist Party's rule by fear. Neither should the Chinese people more generally. The letter, released by the Macdonald-Laurier Institute, the Henry Jackson Society, and European Values, represents an international group of public figures, security policy analysts, and China watchers, standing in solidarity with the courageous and conscientious Chinese citizens I have already mentioned, and many others besides. They are the real heroes and martyrs of China, who are risking their lives and their liberty for a free and open society in their homeland. Their individual voices are already forming a chorus. They demand nothing less than a critical evaluation of the impact of Chinese Communist Party policies on the lives of Chinese citizens and people around the world. We urge everyone to join the experts who have signed our letter in this endeavor of bringing these voices of an honest, authentic, accountable, and honorable China to the attention of their compatriots and the world. I'm Brian Lee Crowley for the Macdonald-Laurier Institute.